Hey coin fans and treasure hunters, welcome to World Rare Coins, the place where history, mystery, and massive value collide in the world of rare US coins. If you think a quarter is just pocket change, think again. Here, we uncover hidden gems, minting mistakes, and mind-blowing stories behind coins that collectors dream about. Ready to discover coins that could change your life? Then stick around, because you're about to enter the thrilling world of rare coins like never before. Let's get started. Top 1 today, we're exploring a coin that, at first glance, might seem small and ordinary, but in reality, it hides secrets that can make it worth a small fortune. I'm talking about the 1960 United States of America 1-cent coin, a piece of history that has captured the hearts of collectors for decades. The year 1960 was an exciting one for U.S. coinage. It marked the 151st anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth, and his portrait, designed by Victor David Brenner, was still proudly displayed on the obverse. But here's where things get interesting. In 1960, the U.S. Mint produced two distinct versions of the penny that collectors now refer to as the small date and the large date varieties. The difference lies in the size and shape of the numerals in the date. On the small date version, the 6 and the 0 appear slimmer and more delicate, while on the large date, the numerals are bolder and more prominent. These subtle differences may not mean much to the average person, but to a dedicated numismatist, they're like discovering two completely different coins. But that's just the start. Some of the rarest 1960 pennies are the transitional errors and unusual minting mistakes. One fascinating error is the D over D mint mark found on coins struck at the Denver Mint. This happens when the letter D was punched into the die more than once in slightly different positions, creating a doubled appearance. Under magnification, this error is stunning and unmistakable. Then there's the famous small date over large date variety, where the mint accidentally used a die originally prepared for one date style, then repunched it to fit the other. The result is a coin with layered numerals, a true rarity and a highly desirable piece in the eyes of collectors. Of course, we can't ignore other striking errors like off-center strikes, die cracks, and clipped planchets. An off-center strike occurs when the coin blank is misaligned during minting, leaving part of the design cut off and part of the blank surface exposed. Die cracks create raised, vein-like lines on the coin's surface, caused by a damaged die during striking. A clipped planchet, on the other hand, has a crescent-shaped missing section due to a manufacturing mishap. Each of these errors makes a coin unique, and in coin collecting, uniqueness means value. Now, let's talk about condition. In the world of numismatics, condition is everything. A 1960 penny fresh from the mint, with sharp details, rich color, and no signs of wear, is in what collectors call mint state. Coins graded MS 65 or higher can command extraordinary prices, especially if they also have one of the rare varieties or errors we just discussed. On the flip side, a heavily circulated 1960 penny might only be worth its face value, unless it hides a rare minting anomaly. What makes the 1960 penny so captivating is that millions of them are still out there, sitting unnoticed in old jars, tucked away in drawers, or even floating around in your loose change. The thrill of searching is a huge part of what drives coin enthusiasts, knowing that you might one day spot a small date variety or a dramatic error in the most unexpected place. Many collectors share stories of finding valuable coins in everyday life. Someone empties a family coin jar, sorts through pennies, and suddenly notices the subtle differences in a date or a mint mark. That moment, the rush of realizing you've discovered something rare, is what makes this hobby so addicting. Even though it's now over 6 decades old, the 1960 Lincoln cent continues to inspire collectors worldwide. It represents an era when coin design still carried rich historical significance, and when the smallest changes at the mint could lead to pieces that collectors would treasure forever. So, just how much could the rarest and most perfect 1960 pennies be worth today? For the most exceptional examples, those in pristine mint state condition, with dramatic and desirable errors or rare varieties, the value can reach an astonishing $84,000. Yes, you heard that right. $84,000 for a single penny. That's why you should always check your change carefully. That tiny copper coin in your pocket might not just be worth 1 cent. It could be a collector's dream and a life-changing find. Top 2, we're traveling back in time to 1961, a year when the United States was entering a new era, and even the smallest coin in circulation carried a story worth telling. I'm talking about the humble 1-cent coin from that year, a coin so common in appearance that most people would overlook it instantly. Yet certain rare examples are worth a fortune today. Let's start with the basics. The 1961 1-cent coin, part of the Lincoln Cent series, features the iconic portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse, designed by Victor David Brenner. This portrait had already been a fixture on the penny for over 50 years by 1961, symbolizing strength, leadership, and unity. On the reverse, we find the classic wheat ears design replaced by the Lincoln Memorial, a detailed representation of one of America's most famous monuments. Look closely at this design, and you'll even see the tiny statue of Lincoln inside the memorial, an incredible detail for such a small piece of currency. Now, what makes the 1961 penny fascinating for collectors is not just its history, but the potential for valuable minting varieties and rare errors. The U.S. Mint in 1961 produced pennies at both the Philadelphia and Denver mints. Those from Philadelphia bear no mint mark, while the Denver coins have a small D beneath the date. One of the most sought-after varieties for the 1961 penny is the double die obverse. This occurs when the die used to strike the coin was engraved with the design twice in slightly different positions. Under magnification, you'll notice clear doubling on the date, the words "Liberty" or "In God We Trust." These doubled features can add enormous value to the coin, especially if the coin is also in mint state condition. Another exciting discovery for collectors is the repunched mint mark, or RPM. On some Denver minted coins, the D mint mark was punched into the die more than once, leading to a shadow-like or overlapping effect. These errors happened during the manual mint mark punching process before it was automated, meaning every RPM coin is unique. Then there are striking errors that make a coin stand out immediately. Off-center strikes, for instance, occur when the coin blank is not properly aligned during striking, leaving part of the design missing and part of the blank planchet exposed. Die cracks, raised lines, or marks caused by a damaged die can also add to a coin's uniqueness. In rare cases, you might even find a broad strike, where the coin's rim is missing, making it slightly larger than normal. But here's the thing. Even without a dramatic error, a 1961 penny in pristine condition can be valuable. Coin grading plays a huge role here. Collectors prize coins with sharp details, original luster, and no signs of wear. These coins receive high grades like MS 65, MS 66, or higher from professional grading services. Combine that grade with a rare variety or error, and you have the recipe for a coin worth far more than its face value. Now, what's particularly thrilling is that many of these valuable coins are still out there, hidden in old coin jars, tucked away in inherited collections, or even sitting unnoticed in your everyday change. That's the magic of coin collecting. You're not just dealing with history. You're holding a potential treasure in the palm of your hand. The 1961 penny also appeals to collectors for sentimental reasons. It's a coin from the early 1960s, a time of optimism, cultural change, and major historical events. For some, finding a 1961 penny is like holding a tiny, copper time capsule, a reminder of an era long past. Now, you're probably wondering, just how high can the value go for one of these coins? Well, the rarest, most pristine examples, those with dramatic errors or exceptional mint state quality, can command incredible prices. And for the absolute top-tier specimens, the value has reached an astonishing $81,000. So, next time you come across a 1961 penny, don't toss it aside. Check for doubling, inspect the mint mark, look for off-center strikes, and evaluate its condition. That small, unassuming piece of copper might just be your ticket to owning a true piece of numismatic history, and maybe even to making a life-changing discovery. Top 3, we're going back to 1964, a year that might seem like an ordinary point in history for some. But for collectors, it's a year that hides one of the most intriguing treasures in American numismatics. The United States 1-cent coin from that year, at first glance, a 1964 penny might seem completely ordinary. It's small, copper-colored, and something most of us have seen countless times. But what if I told you that certain versions of this coin could be worth thousands of times more than their face value? Yes, the coin that could be rattling around in an old jar or forgotten in a drawer might be hiding secrets that make it a true rarity. Let's start by talking about its design. The obverse side features the ever-familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln, designed by Victor David Brenner. It's been the face of the penny since 1909, honoring America's 16th president. Around Lincoln's head, you'll find the inscriptions "In God We Trust," "Liberty," and the year 1964. On the reverse side, the Lincoln Memorial stands proudly, a design introduced in 1959 to mark the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. If you look closely, you can actually see the tiny statue of Lincoln between the memorial's columns, a detail often missed by the casual observer. Now, here's where things get interesting for collectors. In 1964, pennies were struck at two locations: the Philadelphia Mint, which produced coins without a mint mark, and the Denver Mint, whose coins carry a small D beneath the date. While millions upon millions of these coins were made, certain errors and conditions make some incredibly rare and valuable. One of the most exciting varieties for 1964 is the double die obverse. This happens when the die, the tool used to strike the design onto the blank coin, was engraved twice, but slightly misaligned. Under magnification, you might notice a ghostly doubling on the date, the word "Liberty," or even "In God We Trust." These varieties are like a hidden treasure map, guiding collectors toward a valuable find. Another notable error is the repunched mint mark, especially for the Denver coins. In those days, mint marks were added to the die by hand. Sometimes, the engraver had to strike the mint mark more than once, resulting in a D that appears doubled, tripled, or slightly offset. This tiny imperfection can transform an ordinary penny into a collectible worth serious money. Collectors also keep their eyes peeled for off-center strikes. If the blank planchet wasn't perfectly aligned during minting, the design could be pushed to one side, leaving a blank crescent of copper visible. The more dramatic the misalignment, while still showing the date, the more valuable the coin becomes. Then there are die cracks and cuts. Over time, the dies used to strike coins can wear down or crack. When this happens, extra metal fills the damaged area, creating raised lines or blobs on the finished coin. Far from being defects to be discarded, these quirks are prized by error collectors. Of course, rarity alone isn't enough. Condition is everything in the coin world. A 1964 penny that has been in circulation for decades, worn down and dull, might still be worth just a cent. But find one in pristine mint state, with its original luster, sharp details, and no signs of wear, and you're looking at a completely different story. Graded at MS 65 or higher by a professional grading service, such coins stand out in any collection. What makes the 1964 penny even more appealing is its connection to an era of American history. It was the last year before major changes swept the U.S. coinage system in the mid-1960s, as silver content was reduced in higher denominations and production processes evolved. For some, owning a flawless 1964 penny is like holding on to a piece of the past, a reminder of simpler times when a penny could still buy something, and every coin had a bit more character. And here's the part you've been waiting for: the value. The most exceptional 1964 pennies, those with dramatic errors or the highest possible grades, have been known to sell for truly remarkable sums at auction. One of the finest known examples, preserved with perfect surfaces and a rare error, has reached an incredible price of $78,000. So the next time you come across a 1964 penny, take a closer look. Examine the date, inspect the mint mark, check for doubling or striking errors, and see if it might be hiding that elusive perfection collectors dream about. Who knows? That little copper coin could be worth far more than you think, and it might just be the key to unlocking a rare treasure. Top 4. We are stepping into the fascinating world of American coinage to uncover the secrets of a small, yet incredibly captivating piece of history: the 1966 United States 1-cent coin. This penny might look like just another copper coin to most people, but for dedicated collectors, certain examples are worth more than anyone could imagine. And by the end of this video, you'll understand why even the tiniest cent from this year can be a ticket to something extraordinary. Let's start with the story of its time. The year 1966 came during a turbulent period for U.S. coinage. America was experiencing a nationwide coin shortage, partly due to the rising value of silver in other denominations and the massive hoarding of coins by the public. In an effort to ease the shortage, the U.S. Mint made several key changes, including temporarily removing mint marks from coins between 1965 and 1967. That's why you won't find a D or an S mint mark on any 1966 penny. Every one of them looks like it came from Philadelphia, regardless of where it was actually minted. The design of the 1966 penny is familiar to all. On the obverse side, we see Abraham Lincoln's dignified profile, the work of Victor David Brenner, whose portrait had been gracing the cent since 1909. The inscriptions "In God We Trust," "Liberty," and the date, 1966, surround Lincoln. On the reverse, we find the Lincoln Memorial, introduced in 1959 to honor the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. Between the memorial's columns, if you look closely, you can spot the tiny statue of Lincoln himself, a detail so small many people never notice it without magnification. Now, you may be wondering, if millions of these coins were made and they don't even have mint marks, what could make them rare or valuable? The answer lies in a combination of minting errors, unusual varieties, and exceptional preservation. One of the most sought-after varieties for 1966 is the double die obverse. This happens when the hub imprints the coin's design onto the die more than once, but with a slight misalignment. As a result, you might see a subtle or dramatic doubling on the date, the word "Liberty," or even "In God We Trust." Coins with strong doubling are far from ordinary. They're like hidden gems hiding in plain sight. Another important category is die breaks and cuts. Over time, the dies used to strike coins can develop cracks or pieces can break off entirely. When that happens, molten metal from the planchet fills the damaged area, creating raised blobs or lines on the finished coin. These imperfections make every coin unique, and collectors often pay high premiums for dramatic examples that you'll also want to keep your eyes peeled for off-center strikes. This occurs when the planchet, the blank coin, is not perfectly aligned during striking. A slight misalignment might be interesting, but when you find a coin struck 40%, 50%, or even more off-center, and the date is still visible, you've got something truly special. Even without dramatic errors, condition alone can make a huge difference in value. A 1966 penny that's been in circulation for decades will likely be worn, scratched, and dull. But an uncirculated coin in pristine, mint state condition, with sharp details, bright luster, and no signs of wear, can be worth far more to serious collectors. Coins graded MS 65 or higher by professional grading services are especially prized. Part of what makes the 1966 penny fascinating is its historical context. During this period, the mint was experimenting with new policies and production methods to solve the coin shortage, and quality control was not as strict as in other years. This environment led to a greater variety of striking errors slipping into circulation, which today serve as a treasure hunt for coin enthusiasts. Collectors also appreciate the 1966 penny because it falls within a unique three-year window, 1965, 1966, and 1967, where no U.S. coins bore mint marks. This makes them an interesting set to collect and compare, especially for those who enjoy piecing together coins that represent historical changes in the mint's operations. Why do certain 1966 pennies command such staggering prices? It's the perfect storm: rarity, error, and condition. When a coin has all three, say, a dramatic double die obverse in flawless, uncirculated condition, it becomes a showpiece for any collection. And now, the moment you've been waiting for, the value. Among the rarest and most pristine examples, especially those with prominent minting errors, a 1966 United States 1-cent coin has sold for an astounding $75,000. The next time you sift through your change, don't dismiss that old penny without a second look. It might just be your gateway to a remarkable piece of numismatic history. Examine the date, study the details, check for errors, and you might find that what you thought was worth 1 cent could be worth more than you ever dreamed. Top 5. We're about to shine a spotlight on a humble coin that most people wouldn't give a second thought to. A simple copper penny from 1968. But as you'll soon discover, some 1968 1-cent coins have the power to make collectors' hearts race and wallets open wide. The secret lies in their history, their unique variations, and the incredible minting errors that turn an ordinary coin into something truly extraordinary. That let's first set the stage. The year 1968 was a fascinating moment in American coinage. Just a few years earlier, in 1965, the United States Mint had removed all mint marks from coins to help combat the coin shortage sweeping across the nation. But in 1968, mint marks returned, and that small change meant a lot to collectors. Once again, you could tell if your penny came from Denver, San Francisco, or Philadelphia. For coin enthusiasts, this was a welcome return to tradition and opened the door to identifying rare varieties from each mint. The design of the 1968 penny will be instantly familiar to anyone who's ever handled a cent in the last half-century. The obverse, created by Victor David Brenner in 1909, bears the dignified profile of Abraham Lincoln, facing right. Above him is the national motto, "In God We Trust." To the left, the word "Liberty." And to the right, the year, 1968, followed by the mint mark, if present. On the reverse, designed by Frank Gasparo, stands the Lincoln Memorial, with United States of America proudly arching above it. E pluribus unum, just below, and 1 cent anchoring the bottom. If you peer closely between the memorial's columns, you'll even spot a tiny representation of the Lincoln statue, an incredible detail often missed by casual observers. So what makes the 1968 penny special? The answer lies in 3 factors: minting errors, condition, and the presence or absence of mint marks. That let's start with minting errors. Even with modern machinery, the U.S. Mint occasionally produced coins with mistakes, and in 1968, some of those errors slipped into circulation. One of the most desirable is the double die obverse, where the lettering, numbers, or even parts of Lincoln's portrait appear doubled due to a misalignment during the die creation process. Doubling on Liberty or In God We Trust can be especially striking and instantly raises a coin's value. Another valuable error is the off-center strike. This happens when the coin blank or planchet isn't properly centered during striking. Depending on the degree of the misalignment, part of the design may be missing entirely, replaced by a blank crescent of copper. A dramatic off-center strike with the date still fully visible is highly sought after. Then there are die cracks and cuts, raised lines or blobs of extra metal caused when parts of the die were down or break away. These imperfections make each coin unique and can turn an otherwise ordinary penny into a conversation piece worth serious money to the right collector. One specific variety to watch for is the 1968 S-proof penny with a double die obverse. Proof coins were struck with extra care and a mirror-like finish, but in some cases, they too showed dramatic doubling on the inscriptions. These proof errors are incredibly scarce and can fetch top dollar. Condition is the second big factor. A 1968 penny that's been rattling around in people's pockets for decades will be scratched, worn, and dull. But if you find one in mint state condition, meaning it looks almost exactly as it did the day it left the mint, it's a whole different story. High-grade coins graded MS 65 or better are rare survivors, and collectors are willing to pay a premium for them. The third factor is mint mark variation. In 1968, pennies were struck at Philadelphia, no mint mark, Denver, D mint mark, and San Francisco, S mint mark, mostly for proof coins. While Philadelphia and Denver coins are more common, San Francisco proofs and certain Denver errors are much scarcer. Some collectors specifically seek to complete sets from all 3 mints, and that can drive up demand for the best examples. Beyond rarity, the 1968 penny carries a certain charm for collectors because it represents a turning point. With the return of mint marks, it marked the end of the unusual mid-1960s era when coins were deliberately stripped of their identifying letters. For numismatists, this makes the 1968 cent not just a coin, but a marker of American minting history. Imagine holding one of these in flawless condition, with a bold doubling on the date, a rich red copper color gleaming under the light, and a history that spans over 5 decades. That's the kind of piece that goes from being worth a single cent to being worth a small fortune. And speaking of fortune, let's talk numbers. Among the rarest examples, those with dramatic minting errors and pristine, uncirculated condition, A 1968 United States 1-cent coin has been known to sell for an incredible $73,000. So the next time you find an old penny, especially from 1968, don't just toss it aside. Look closely. Check the mint mark. Examine the details under magnification. You might just have in your hand a piece of American history, and maybe even your ticket to a collector's jackpot. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the world of rare pennies, give this video a thumbs up, subscribe for more coin discoveries, and ring that notification bell so you never miss the next treasure hunt. In the world of coins, even the smallest piece can tell the biggest story, and sometimes it can change your life.